Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I was getting ready to give me a chance. So you all, if you've never been to hear my mayor speak, he will prompt you again to make sure everybody is awake. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you very kindly. So I warmed them up for you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
My name is Frank Hayden. I am the director of the Office of Small and Minority and Women-Owned Business for the city of West Palm Beach. And we are partnering with our good friends from Small Business Development Center at FAU. And it is a pleasure to have you all out today to deal with what is recognized as Small Business Week this week. And I will say to you that there is no city in Florida, and I bear none, that is more committed and dedicated to providing opportunities for small businesses than the city of West Palm Beach. And so we are just absolutely proud of that and honored that we're partnering with our good friends from FAU on this endeavor. And so I'm once again welcoming you to this event. I think you're going to learn a lot of information. And one of the key things is that we know it takes funding in order for you to be successful in whatever you do. And I'm proud of the fact that our mayor in this city, when the pandemic hit in 2019 and 2020, when people were trying to figure out what they were going to do, businesses were suffering and stuff, he dug deep into the coffers of the city of West Palm Beach to provide some funding that was made available to businesses here so that they could make it through the rough times. And we have now developed another loan program for that same extent because we know everybody didn't have an opportunity to take advantage of that. And so we've made it available again. We had a good partnership with the BBIC and with Valley Bank to provide loans in the neighborhood of $5,000 to $20,000 with very low interest rate. And your credit score doesn't have to be in the 7s and 8s. We'll take you if you're in the 5s. Because we know how difficult it is for small and minority businesses to be successful. So you're going to hear a lot about what we're doing and what we're able to do, but I'm going to take this time now to introduce, in my opinion, the finest mayor, not only in the state of Florida, but in this country. And I say that because he is committed and dedicated to working and developing programs that assist small, minority, and women-owned businesses. When I first met him, he was a lawyer, and he still is, practicing that practice, I'm assuming. And at that time, and this was like 15 years ago, he was working to help small businesses to get contracts in the city and other cities as well. And so it is not something he does simply because he's the mayor. He does that because he's the commitment. So, let me introduce to you my mayor, Mayor Keith James of the city of West Palm Beach. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Hayden, for that very fine introduction. When I first met Frank, I had black hair. So, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Frank, you had on prime just right.
I tell you, I like my job. Okay.
So it is truly an honor and a privilege to be here with you today. As Frank mentioned, helping small businesses is in my DNA. I had my own law firm from 2005 until I got elected here as mayor in 2019. And I specialized in representing small, medium-sized businesses and private entrepreneurs And so it is still a love of mine, and I recognize, as you all do, that small businesses are truly the lifeblood of an economy. But before I go on, I want to thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us here this afternoon for what I know will be an informative and valuable workshop. Anytime there is a chance to learn how to get money into your business, that is something to which you should pay attention. And so you're going to hear from the experts following me. Sandra Marine from the Florida Small Business Development Center at FAU. Sandra, I know you have a lot of good information, and Marlon White, I see Marlon back there also. They will share some very valuable information with you. But let me talk a little bit about what we have been doing here in West Palm Beach. Give you a couple of fun facts. In 2021, last fiscal year, the city paid $13.7 million of the total completed dollars for city contracts to small businesses through the Office of Small and Minority Business Programs under Mr. Hayden's leadership. 13.7 million of the contested dollars. That represented 20% of the dollars that the city paid out that were contested, far exceeding our goal of 18%. I challenge you to find any other municipality in this county, and I would venture I challenge you to find any other municipality in this state that has achieved such. So Frank, thank you again so much for you and your team. You know, it's one thing to talk it, but under Frank's leadership, the city of West Palm Beach walks it. And so as Frank alluded to, we continue to work with small businesses through our COVID-19 Recovery Assistance Program, whereby we are providing microloans with interest rates starting at 4.25%. And because of these efforts, and as Frank said, I'm very proud of the fact that West Palm Beach, during COVID hit in March of 2020, before that month was up, West Palm Beach was the first government entity, that includes the county, to get money on the street to businesses who were in dire need. Now, there was no budget, there was no line item in our budget for COVID relief because we didn't know what the hell COVID was in March of 2020. So we had to, and I humorously say, but it's really not far from the truth, we had to look under the sofa pillows, look under the mattress to see if we could, whatever loose change we could find, to get into the hands of the small business community that was in dire need. And one of the responsibilities of my job as mayor, when people were in need, to do everything humanly possible to respond to that need, and I'm happy that the city was able to get out there before anyone else. And I think, due in no small part to those efforts, and also to the performance of Frank and his team, West Palm Beach has a national reputation as being one of the most business-friendly cities in the United States. So, in light of that, I think it will behoove you, if you're a smart business person, it will behoove you to become certified as a small business enterprise or a minority women business enterprise in our city. Some of the benefits, you will be included on a list of suppliers, and that list is shared by governmental entities and large contractors throughout the county and probably even the nation, and that gives you some free marketing. We do have work in the city that's reserved especially for SBE and NWBEs in the form of sheltered markets. And so you would have a leg up on getting that business. And then also businesses certified in the city can apply for low interest loans, which will be backed by the city of West Palm Beach. These include 60-month microloans and amounts between $5,000 and $20,000, which may carry an interest rate of up to 10%. Also, the city to help with technical assistance, and I know that is a major need for businesses, and it's probably second only to the need for capital. The city is providing one free consultation with a marketing professional to discuss either website or business card design or creating a branding guide. So that's a lot of good stuff that comes with just becoming certified with the city of West Palm Beach. So I think would be in my humble opinion, I think would be a good idea to get certified with us. But please be sure to speak to Mr. Hayden. He has other members of his team here to learn more about what we're doing here in West Palm Beach. And thank you all for coming today, and please keep your ears open, because I think you're going to learn a lot that will be helpful to you. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Frank, you did do well, my friend, because they are responding in a very loud fashion, which is a beautiful thing. You guys noticed I didn't get an intro. Mr. Hayden just sort of looked back at me, and that was my cue to get up here. So, but thank you for coming out today. I'm Marlon White. I'm with the Palm Beach County Black Business Investment Corporation as its president, and also Pathway Capital. I've been given about 10 minutes to go through what we do and how we do it. So I'm going to call this like a lightning round. But I'm going to leave some time at the back end for questions, Q&A, so I can answer those for you. The BBIC actually came out of legislation that happened back in 1985 when Governor Graham was in place that said that black-owned and controlled businesses were underserved by commercial banks. And what he did is he called for legislation that called for the allotment of $5 million. Those $5 million were being allotted to Dade County, Broward County, Orlando, Tampa, and Jacksonville. You may note I did not mention Palm Beach County. Palm Beach County was left out of the legislation. We had a very good negotiator here, a gentleman by the name of Tony Brown, that actually went down to Broward. He was our emissary of sorts, and he went down to talk with Broward about maybe sharing their $1 million pool with us. He was very successful in doing so. They split that $500,000, then we went about the business of raising $500,000 here. Some of you might be familiar with Barnett Bank. They were the first investor in the BBIC. They committed $100,000. At the time, I was the regional manager for SunTrust Bank, and we committed $50,000, Southeast $100,000, so on and so on. And we raised $525,000, and the state matched that with $525,000. We thought it did not make really good sense to come out of the ground and try to do direct loans with $1,050,000, so we set up a program very much like the SBA. And what we said to banks that had invested in the BBIC, if you source a client, or if we source a client, if they have some things in that credit that are weaknesses, as you would discover through your review, we would like to step up and mitigate those weaknesses by giving a guarantee anywhere from 10 to 90%. Let me say that again, 10 to 90%. So if someone came to the bank and said, well, I want to borrow $100,000 for a line of credit, and if they had some weaknesses, let's say the credit report was more like 620, and the bank had a requirement of 680 to 700, we'd step in with a guarantee. Now, in almost every case, the bank wanted to get 90%, and we had a loan committee that said, no, that's not going to happen, we'll give you 50%. But let's just assume, hypothetically speaking for a moment, that we gave you 90%. That client was able to get that loan, $100,000, with a 90% guarantee. We had on our shoulders at the BBIC $90,000 worth of risk. The bank had $10,000 risk, and the beauty of the program was this: because they had our guarantee, that startup business or that business that had been in business maybe 2 or 3 years got a very attractive rate. Let me repeat that. They got a very attractive rate. And the reason I say that is even to this day, the average rate that our clients are getting might be prime +1 to prime +2. Now, for someone that doesn't have a lot of financial wherewithal in a business, that's a big, that is gigantic. As my granddaughter would say, that's enormous, okay? So we want you all to know about us, and once we finish today, go out to our website and look at what we do. So the BBIC, as it said, was set up to work with Black-owned and controlled businesses. We work with banks and provide guarantees. And we were fortunate enough in July of 2020 to get our CDFI status, Community Development Financial Institution. That's big, because with that standard, banks were willing to give us more money. And as I said, this is a lightning round, so you guys can go back and pose questions to me. So what are our goals and what do we do? We're in business to work with Black-owned and controlled businesses. Those businesses must be owned 51% or more by a Black owner. We're here to support that formation and help them grow. And we want to foster them hiring people. So often you hear in the marketplace that capital is the lifeblood of business. I want to modify that today. Capital coupled with financial literacy, coupled with technical assistance, is the lifeblood of business. Think about that for a moment. So often we put money on the street and we don't give the backup of financial assistance with literacy and technical assistance. And sometimes those clients are out there floundering in the marketplace because we as a bank or we as an institution like the BBIC did not do a very good job. And when that happens, you've got to look inward and say, how do we get better? So we have coupled into what we do not only the lending portion, but we have coupled in the financial literacy training along with the technical assistance. We're doing a program right now with the city, I'll talk about a little bit later on, where once we sign a city client up for that loan of $5,000 to $20,000, we give them a user ID and we give them a password. And they have access to an online tutorial. And there are 50 different tutorials: how to fill out a personal financial statement, how to read your tax return, what's the difference between cash basis accounting and accrual basis accounting, what's a compilation, what's a review, what's an unqualified statement, how do they differ? And I've said some things here that might be foreign to you guys, but by taking those tutorials, our clients are now able, as they grow up, to walk into the bank and say to the banker, XYZ, and sometimes floor that banker because they know a little bit more because they've gotten that assistance from us. So we're all about making sure that they get that exposure. So here's what we do. I talked about the loan guarantees earlier. We also do bonding, but because bonding is such a specialized business, we actually take a letter of credit and we support that at a bank and we put that up as a clean document, as it would be called. And that company can use that letter of credit to substitute for bonding. Most people say bonding, they don't realize that you could use the bonding mechanism, but you can also use a letter of credit to buy that bond, okay? We do that at the BBIC. We also do equity investments, and that's been a challenge for us because we will buy into businesses, but when you're buying into a relatively new business that's learning their way, you don't want to get too involved because there's this animal called lender's liability. And if we get too involved with the day-to-day activity, we could get ourselves in trouble because if the business fails because we made several recommendations, they could come back and litigate against us. So we've looked at 3, we've approved 2, and at the end of that, neither of the 2 went forward. As I said earlier, we provide these guarantees to mitigate weaknesses. And with the CDFI status now, we do direct lending. At the BBIC, if a bank doesn't want to take your deal, we now have the ability to look at a loan for you anywhere from $5,000 up to $250,000. And we will book that at the BBIC and sort of circumvent that bank that didn't want to work with you if we feel comfortable with the deal. We do have a loan committee, and that loan committee is made up of bankers. And so when we look at deals, we really know what we're looking at. Let me tell you about the guarantee program a little bit more. We typically do the guarantees 10 to 90%, as I said earlier. The first year we do charge a fee because someone's got to pay the power bill, the phone bill, and all that good stuff. So the first year we do charge a 3% fee. Every year thereafter we charge a 1% fee on the loan amount. And we will do that up to 4 years. We actually call that the incubation period. So We put you with the bank, they approve your loan, and we stay in the shadows for those 4 years, but we're staying in the shadows with the guarantee to make sure that that bank connects with you for those 4 years. We'd like to think that in 4 years, you've kind of grown up, they've gotten to know you, you've gotten to know them, and then there's a marriage between you and the bank, and you can move on. We do term loans. We actually guarantee term loans, basically up to 7 years, 7-year amortization with a 5-year balloon. And we do that because if you're buying a piece of property, say a 20-year amortization, we'll go in on that deal, but after 5 years, we like to think that you paid the loan down. The property is appreciated in value. Your loan to value is where it should be. You've got 5 good years of history, and we come out of the deal. Okay? And any of you guys can call me after this discussion at the office, and I'll go over this with you in detail. The beauty of also what we do at the BBIC is that most banks want a 680 to 700 credit score to talk with you. We will look at a 620 credit score. We will also look at something called debt coverage. Most banks want to know that you've got a 1.25 times to 1, meaning that for every dollar in debt you have, you've got $1.25 to cover it. Our debt ratio is 1.1 to 1. So for every dollar in debt you have, we expect you to have $1.10. As I said earlier, we do the bonding. We use letter of credits to facilitate bonding. And we are now in discussions with a third party to do that for us. Hopefully we'll have something online that's true bonding within the next 6 to 9 months at the BBIC. And we don't get involved with that part. We actually just have you work with them to facilitate that bonding. I spoke earlier about the loan size, $5,000, $250,000, but that's not the limit of what we do at the BBIC. We've also contracted with 2 entities, one out of Orlando and another out of Minnesota. So if you were to come to me, if you had a larger request, I don't really like to take on any more debt than $250,000 with one individual or one business, but we have the ability to go out to our outside sources, and we can actually go up to $4 million for you. We can do SBA 504, SBA 7A, SBA Express. We can do all the SBAs, okay? And we can put you with the source that does that. Typically those deals are $150,000 or more. If they're less, then we're gonna probably do those in-house at the BBIC. We work with a lot of banks here, and so people understand that we're not a fly-by-night. Some of the banks that are a part of what we do, and there are about 15 of them, Bank of America, Northern Trust, South State Bank, JP Morgan, Regions, Seacoast Bank, Valley Bank, Bankers Trust, PNC Bank, Bank United, TD Bank, Wells Fargo, Truist. Don't think I left many people out. But Fifth Third isn't here today. Fifth Third just came on board with us over the last 4 months. And then there's another bank called Co-America. Co-America has just come on board. So you can see if there's a major bank, they're a part of what we do, and I think that talks to our credibility and how well we've done it. When we talk to credibility, let me say this. Over the 35 years that the BBIC has been in existence, we've done $34.5 million in loan guarantees. Our average loan is somewhere between $70,000 to $100,000. And we've helped some people not once, twice, or 3 times, 4 times over. We've got some folks in this community that you would not know. We don't call names. We keep everything private and confidential unless they give us the approvals to call their names, that are multimillionaires because they started out with the BBIC. There are numerous times when I'm in meetings like this and people walk up to me and they'll say, thank you for something we did 25, 30 years ago, because we were there when no one else would be, okay? Out of that $34.5 million in loans, we've also helped create and retain about 3,300 jobs. And we've also interfaced over those 33 years, 35 years we've been in existence, about 13,800 people that we've interfaced with. Frank mentioned along with the mayor today that we are doing the program with the city of West Palm Beach, and I talked about it briefly, $5,000 up to $20,000, interest only for the first 12 months, followed by a 48-month repayment schedule, coupled with access to 50 tutorials that you can look at to enrich your background. And oh, by the way, on those tutorials, we can go online and see that you took the tutorial. We don't know who took the tutorial, but we know they use your user ID and your password. But a part of what we do is we question you on the tutorials. We want to see what kind of proficiency is there because we want to make sure you're doing the right thing. Let me speak just for another moment on Pathway Capital because I said I was president of two organizations. We have done so well over the years with BBIC that the bank consortium here, Bank of America, JP Morgan, Valley National Bank, and a number of other banks approached us back in 2018 and said, you guys are doing this for black-owned and controlled businesses. Why can't you do something very similar for all demographics? And we agreed to do that. So we now have an organization called Pathway Capital. It came online last January 2021. We set up a capital campaign to raise $4 million. We raised $3.8 million in 6 months. $3.8 million in 6 months. And Pathway Capital was in place and ready to do business. I got the good news just this past Monday or Friday. I can't call the name because we'll do a press release. A bank just approached me and they said, we want to be a part of that action. So we asked them to give us something called an EQ2, which is a loan at a very low rate that we relend the money to facilitate folks like yourselves. And they came back with an offer I couldn't believe, Mr. Hayden. They actually came back to me and says, we don't want to give you a loan for EQ2 for $1 million over 10 years, interest only paid annually. We want to give you $1 million. I share that with you because I think that speaks very highly of what we do and how we do it. So that was my lightning round for the BBIC and Pathway. So we work with black-owned and controlled businesses and all other demographics in the marketplace in Palm Beach County. We also go up the Treasure Coast with the BBIC. Mr. Hayden, that's my spill. Okay, great. Are there any questions, or we're going to take those later on, Mr. Faber?
Let's take them.
Mr. Hayden, take them out. Any questions?
Later.
Later? Okay. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I think I will self-introduce too. So my name is Sandra Marion. I run the SBDC. This is the Small Business Development Center. This is a national organization, and we have centers across the state. And especially for Florida, let me go here. Yeah, I'm good. For Florida, we have 9 regions, and we are so proud to run the best SBDC for Florida in Broward and Palm Beach County. 2 years in a row, we have been having the highest performance for the state. And this event today is the inaugural event in our partnership for getting closer to the West Palm Beach residents and small business owners. So we are opening a location to provide direct assistance from the city. So this event is one of the many that are coming in the near future to serve your needs in firsthand working with our consultants. So what SBDC does is provide business consulting at no cost and confidential. Most of our funding are coming from the Small Business Administration. I don't know what is.
Yeah, I'll fix it.
A little fast. By the way, I have a technology background and look at the computer how to fix it, right? Don't tell that to anybody.
There.
Okay. So we are a group of mission-driven consultants. Most of us have had previous experience being a business owner, so we understand what entitles to start a business, to run a business, and to make that successful. So we help from the very beginning. From the business plan, we support even in the decision if you want to take a nonprofit, do you want to open a for-profit business, do you want to locate in Florida, do you want to start your business somewhere else and do a business as here, do you want to export, do you want to manufacture here, do you want a franchise? So all of these options to start a business this is one of the services that we provide, again, at no cost because we're primarily funded by the Small Business Administration, by the university that hosts the center in each region in the United States. And also we have strategic partners. We receive funding from the Palm Beach County. We work collaboratively with many cities, in this case with West Palm Beach. And also we have consulting services at multiple levels. At the time that you are growing, you have business assistants that support you. So for more than 45 years, we have been serving thousands of businesses in Florida to start to grow and to succeed. So what you will have today is the presentation of two of our key services. One is access to capital. So we have Tony Lassie, who will present after me, and he's an SBA lender expert. So we help in the whole process to access capital, like in the BBIC lending process. And also we work with a lot of banks to support you to access that capital. So you will learn a lot of best practices. Also, we will support the city on what are the parameters for you to access the loan program that Frank and his team started. Also, we will learn from Jason that he was working previously with the Palm Beach County in all of the local procurement options. We heard our mayor saying that he's encouraging you to be certified. So this is the first step to get into government contracts. So Jason will guide us in the process. And also I like what you say about capital, financial literacy, and technical assistance, because I agree that this is the right combination. So when we are working on that, let's say marriage, we are in the technical assistance side. Also, we have export assistance programs. We work with Enterprise Florida. If you are in that path, we support the grants that they provide for you to go for trade missions. Also, we provide an export marketing plan that is subsidized by Enterprise Florida. And all of these professional assistance, you receive it at no cost or a minimum fee because we actually are a member of all of the services that you have as a business owners in the United States and come from abroad. And all of these that you have here is not everywhere. Yeah. So you're in the right place to start a business, to grow it. A loan program from the city, forget it in other places. I came from Kansas City SBDC. We don't have that there. So your loan, when the mayor was saying this is a unique program, yes, so take advantage of this because accessing capital in a friendly way is not easy, and the city is making a great effort for that. That's why we're joining you today. So outside we have our mobile assistance center. So this is disaster awareness time. And this is also, this image is here because you have to be prepared. So Florida is a disaster state. Anything can happen, so you have to be prepared. Are your records already digitalized? Do you have safe copies of your tax return somewhere? All of this preparation, we will start having some workshops, so we encourage you to attend those and start being prepared. If a disaster happens, the best thing to cover that and just even to claim an insurance is to have everything in place and somewhere else. Also, we work in cybersecurity. So if your business wants to go online, there are some best practices that we share with our consultants. All of to say that the best way to connect with us is to register as a client. Our services are confidential and at no cost. You register in a website that is audited by the Small Business Administration, and just become our client. You start working with a consultant directly. It is case by case. If you need capital, if you want to sell to the government, if you want to export, come to us. And we work collaboratively with different cities. And if you forget who we are, just come to Frank and say, what are these people that give me more technical assistance? And we will be happy to help. So congratulations on taking the time to come and learn. Let let me introduce one of our capital access stars, Mr. Tony Lassie.
Well, thank you. I got the privilege of being introduced. Thank you very much. We broke the mold. Okay, so let me just move to start in the section. Okay, so business financing. I think this is better. Obviously, we're all here present because one form or another, we're looking to establish a business or have a business. And, you know, the element of blood of running the business has to do with the financing piece. So as we move forward to trying to find out the basics of it, obviously you're dealing with the equity financing versus debt financing question that is always put out there as you're starting a business or running a business. Financing working capital versus financing fixed assets, right? So those are different structures that you need to keep in mind as you're moving forward. So what are the do's and don'ts of small business financing? Obviously, very important. Investing your own money is the initial. So it has to do mostly with skin in the game, right? When you're approaching a lender, always the lender is going to ask you, okay, how much have you invested in yourself and in your business, right? It a lot to do with the brain power, but also, you know, how much in that pocket have you invested into the business. Part of that, obviously, investable amount has to do with the earned right to borrow. So important to understand that. Always try to show profitability for those pre-venture clients that we sometimes handle from a capital access standpoint that I consult with. I always ask them, you know, they could be running the business in an informal manner. They may not have necessarily incorporated yet, but they're making money, right? As a sole proprietor, they are. And so that plays an important role in showing profitability on the business venture that they're trying to formalize, right, as a startup. And so you want to keep that in mind. Understanding, obviously, and keeping working capital, that set-aside funding that was mentioned here before, you know, is always important to keep that there. And most importantly, you know, be very lean about, you know, what kind of fixed assets you're going to have with the business while you're running that, right? And match the sources and uses of the funds. That means basically that you're dealing with understanding that you may need a line of credit, a small working capital line of credit, but if you have an asset that is part of your business, like equipment, that you need to structure it not financed by a line of credit necessarily, but from a term loan standpoint. Okay, these are simple, but understanding that you need to keep that in mind. The other following do's and don'ts obviously have to do with maintaining a good, you know, structured financial statements. Understand the collateral options that you have. So if your business is related to utilizing a vehicle to conduct your business, right, to be able to run your business, then understand what collateral options you have with respect to the asset structure, the equipment that you're going to be using. Obviously, it's important that you keep in mind that there's risks and costs for having the type of loans that you're trying to secure, right? The credit facilities you try to secure. In some instances, the no grants is not an option. There is grant funding. Sometimes the city actually has put that out while the pandemic was going on. So you had a portion of your capital structure capital access structure did involve grants. Very important to understand that. It was mentioned several names of several financial institutions earlier, right? They're all competitors of each other, right? And they come together to put forth an initiative like Pathways was mentioning before, which is great, but you still want to shop around, okay? And because you're trying to get not just a better rate, but you also want to get a fee structure that is affordable, right? You don't want to put yourself out there in that sense. And obviously, the last one, get expert advice. We can provide expert advice, obviously, as well as BBIC can do that as well for certain types of businesses. Let's see. Here we go. So let's talk a little bit about loans. Important. Sometimes, or many times, I do have conversations with the client, and the client has an enormous amount of information in their head, but they don't have anything in paper. And so it's critical that you create a business plan. This is the way that you're going to be able to tell a story about your business, right? And what your initiative is about. And so it's also important to that the business plan not only contain your ideas, but how are you going to make money on it, right? Is it going to have a profit plan or a financial, look forward as to what is going on? Know what you can afford. Many a times I have clients that come to me that say, I need $500,000 to start this business. So what I do, immediately get into the mode of breaking up those $500,000 and trying to understand how they get to that figure, right? How did that happen? And so being able to know if they can afford it or not is important. And many a times I find myself having broken down enough that number that then the business owner understands that they really need 150, they don't need 500,000 to get the business going. Because this is just the first step, right? It's not the 100-meter dash, right? So it's important that you understand what you can afford. The lender or the lending industry will be able to understand that, you recognizing that important aspect. Study your financial statements. It was mentioned before that, there's ways of being able to understand what kind of financial statements you need, the balance sheet, the profit and loss statement, that sort of thing. The basics of accounting, right? What your credits and your debits are and that sort of thing. That's important to have a grasp on. Obviously, this is self-explanatory as to the credit report. Check your credit, consistently. And remember, establish collateral options, show your equity contribution. Again, it's about exhibiting how much money have you put into the business. And time. Time is, you can convert that time into monetary value, right, for a business. So it's important that you also research what other financial options you have. Okay, we now, when I assist a client with SBDC to put a package together as a finance and capital access consultant, I always obviously start with the story. That's important. It has to be part of the package. The business financials. What are the current history of it? What are the personal financials position? Because understand, lenders in general, right, and CDFIs, as were mentioned earlier, they want to know the big picture. It's called the global debt service that a business has, along with the business owner's debt service. So that's one of the reasons why you're looking at personal business and tax returns. There needs to be a big picture aspect there. All right, So some of the elements of the loan package, obviously, the source and amount of equity contribution, that's important, right? That's what tells the lender what kind of equity, what kind of skin in the game you have in the deal. Obviously, the credit report, what type of collateral, if any. And that inside that collateral aspect there, I must say, and I have to reiterate a little bit of what was mentioned earlier by Mr. White, was the fact that the collateral could be that loan guarantee, right, that they were talking about. That kind of collateralizes the loan for the lender. All right, purchase agreement, appraisals, contracts, and estimates. So, what does this all mean? Well, what that means, if you're already in business, informally, as a sole proprietor, that is kind of what they're asking here. Now, if you're a startup and for 6 months you've been trying to engage the city of West Palm Beach for business, well, you want to have some sort of documentation and contracts that will help you tell the story to the lender. Qualify for a loan. So what is the criteria to qualify for the loan? Obviously, good credit score, your equity contribution, your skin in the game, repayment ability. Understand that the lenders don't want your assets. They're not in the business to liquidate your assets. They're in the business of lending money. They want to be paid back. And so it's important that you understand that they're looking for the repayment ability. And obviously, loan to value ratios that we talked about, right? Your global debt service, that sort of calculation. So startup financing, obviously, what are the financing options for a startup business? Equity. There's also sweet equity, which is something that could be provided by, somebody else. A third party, Sweet equity could be family members, right? For you're starting a business and you have some family members that are, willing to place faith on your ability of being able to run that business, right? And so they'll put some money, sweet equity into the. A lot of them use obviously the business credit cards or personal credit cards, and direct loans from family members, okay, and friends for that matter. Looking for a loan, where should you look for a business loan? So obviously, the obvious default is this. But you have other regional lenders, and the world is full of other lenders that are not necessarily the banks. And I'm a banker, folks. I've been working in the banking industry for, over 30 years, and understand that the lending pool is large. And one of those organizations is definitely the BBIC and Pathways are a means of being able to secure financing, okay? Other than the banks. All right, there are some key points to remember here. Understand, financing is getting the money. You need to start operating and grow your business. Start a budget. People hate that, right? The budgeting, question or the request, but you do unfortunately need to start a budget. Be familiarized with obviously the bookkeeping process. So purchase a good software that manages the bookkeeping aspect of the business. And remember the 3 statements, right? Balance sheet, cash flow statements, P&L, and provide that which helps to provide the story of your business, right? Separate personal and business records, and then factors that affect your ability to loan, obviously credit score, equity, contribution, repayment ability, and the ratios, and the value ratios. And I thank you so much. I want to introduce my colleague, Jason Raju, who will be handling the SBDC Government Contract Specialist. Thank you. There you go. Thank you.
How y'all doing? Okay, so my name is Jason, and I also go by JJ, so you can call me either, but it's kind of like a Jekyll and Hyde thing, so one side's nice, one side's mean, you'll have to figure out which one, so, you laugh, but, so I want to tie things together, okay, because my goal is to kind of give you some confidence as it relates to dealing with local government, okay? I want you to have happy meetings with Frank Hayden and Sandy Anderson, okay? And I'm very proud of West Palm Beach. I have to tell you that sincerely. I mean, you know, I'm up here, so I have to say that.
Right.
But it's actually coming from the heart, Frank. You know, so with the SBDC, we have confidential conversations with our clients, and in those conversations, Frank and Sandy come up, okay? And the way that they take care of small businesses in this community, I can't give you those quotes, but I can tell you that the city of West Palm Beach is a special place, okay? And if you don't feel that way, and you don't feel that way about the mayor, you might have to just reevaluate, because this is a special time. It just in terms of, because I've been in government for so long, there are moments in a community where things kind of like are splinting apart, and there are times when in a community the assets are coming together, and I would signal to you that this is one of those times, that as the economy is kind of like, you know, it is a question mark, but your business doesn't have to be a question mark, okay? So I'm just gonna throw that out there. There are assets in our community like Frank and this team, the supplier diversity team, that are just, they're working hard. They can't hand out contracts. Wouldn't that be nice if they just hand it out? They don't do that. But they go above and beyond to support small businesses, to give you actionable information so that you can kind of figure out how to do work with the agency. Not all agencies are the same. And so my goal in this conversation is as quickly as I can, and as you can tell already, I'm a little long-winded, so I'm gonna do my best to keep it together and keep it within time. So, but I want to actually give you some confidence to pursue local government, okay? So now, I want you to think about how many local governments there are. So just between the 3 counties alone, think of Palm Beach County, think of Broward, think of Miami-Dade County. You're at minimum 100 municipalities, 100 that you potentially could do business with, okay? You are sitting in the largest budget agency in the county. Next to the county, we are the biggest budget here. And the mayor stood here and said, this team has been responsible for $13 million or $13.7 million. $13.7 million worth of contracts to small and micro businesses. If that doesn't deserve a hand clap, I don't know what does. So this is what you think of when you think of working with government, which is the paperwork. And so it's just like, it's so tedious, okay? And when I was in government, I would read the solicitations and my eyes would burn. I'm like, I can't even go through page by page by page, okay? And so our goal with the Small Business Development Center and the PTAC, which I'll explain that acronym to you, is through all this paper here, we're going to work with you, right? So a lot of times I'll have a client, small business client, they'll find a solicitation that is in their wheelhouse, they'll shoot it over by email with me, schedule an appointment, and we review the solicitation. And I'll make that 40-page, 30-page solicitation, and I'll make it clearer and more possible for you to kind of think through. Because there are sections of that you have to look at very carefully, and then there are other sections where you have to just make sure you eyeball it, right? And so that's the role of the SBDC. You probably haven't heard of us because we're the worst marketers that ever existed in terms of programs. But this city has allowed us to kind of come behind and say, hey, we're this powerful engine in terms of supporting small businesses, and to help you with this, right? And so this is what we want to get to, right? We want to get to the money. I'm a person of faith, okay? But I also believe in personal evolution, okay? In the sense that I find that if you've started a business, you have evolved in a certain way. You have changed your mindset. When you're running your own house, you've got a personal budget, and the money is the incoming and outgoing, right? The bills, like I was looking at my table and I had some bills laid out. Like, you've got to pay attention to those aspects of your personal household, right? When you start your own business on top of it, now you are evolving because now you're expanding your own personal capacity, okay? I was talking with a client this week, and he hit some rough times, and he was just starting out. It's a startup. He made some mistakes, and then he caught himself from making a mistake. And so I said to him, hey, you caught yourself. Like, you almost made a $10,000 mistake, but you caught yourself in time. And he just, because he knew the business, he knew his expertise, but he didn't know the business side. He started moving forward step by step, but then something said, hey, I got to pull back here. And so that's what he did. And he saved himself from making several $1,000s worth of mistakes. Why am I saying that to you? Is because all of you are going to personally evolve, okay, as you're doing business. And working with government is an evolution. Because of the paperwork, you're going to find yourself like reading in ways that you've never read before, looking at legal terminology you've never looked at before. You're going to find yourself networking. You're going to find yourself at events like this, just listening. You're going to listen to both Marlon and Tony talk about lending. Some of you are like, oh my goodness, I don't know what the heck they're talking about. You know what I mean? And so, but it's evolution, isn't it? It's growth, right? And so that's what the city of West Palm Beach, that's what Sandy, I've interacted with Sandy several times. She is one of those beautiful people where if you haven't met with her, she's in the back row hiding, and she's in the second row to the back. And she goes out of her way with all the work that she has on this team. She goes out of her way. I see somebody nodding, like a very special person. And so you are not alone in this, but you have to evolve. You have to grow because it's going to challenge you, right? So when you're having this conversation with Frank, and he's looking at your contract, what your responsibilities are, and what your team is doing or what you're doing, you want that conversation to be very good. Okay? Because you've heard the phrase, it's who you know, right? That's a phrase, isn't that a quote? And I would like to change that. It's not so much who you know, that's the stage one. Stage two is who knows you. You follow? And what they think of you. And that, in government, in local government, Frank's got some opinions. Sandy's got some opinions about some businesses around. He's not going to tell you what he thinks. Because he's a public official, he has to be neutral, right? But those contracts are given in such a way where they have to have the best bang for the buck, right? So that means that in your relationships with government agencies, you have to figure out what they think of you when you're networking with them. It's critical. So the point here is that work with us. Work with us. We work with so many businesses across different stages and different sectors that will help you come with your best game, right? I didn't wear a tie, so I didn't come with my best game, but you get the idea, right? You got to come with your best game to government officials because they're moving fast and they also have very selective decisions they have to make, and you got to come in a way that they understand that you're going to deliver results because the contract, the solicitation, is them sending their expectations out into the world, and they're trying to find one of you that's going to deliver on that expectation. And they want to be happy when they're dealing with you. It's amazing how simple business is, actually, when you think about it. Like somebody doing what you tell them to do. It's kind of like what I tell my kids. Like, I just want you to do what I told you to do. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Government's the same way. I just wrote it there, and then I told you, and now I need you to do what you said you're going to do. How's that sound? Okay, real quick. This is all that we do. This is what Sandra already discussed with you. And we are a government program, and the idea here is that we want to be part of your growth and part of your evolution, okay? Because we know that you heard Tony talk about the business plan or the balance sheet. You heard about Marlon explain in very brief details different part loan packages. How many of you caught all of that? How many of you felt confident you understood all of that? Yeah, I know. And it's okay because you don't have to come to Marlon or Tony or Frank not knowing anything. You can come to us in a confidential setting and say, hey, I don't know what that was about, but hey, can you explain that? Or can you give me a resource? Help exists. Okay? This is our team, real quickly. And you'll see Tony's the number 2 there, but we have a pretty significant capital access team. Most of them are former bankers, and there's an accountant on the team as well. And that's this one right here, sorry. I'm on the other team, the government group. And so what we've done is we recognize, as we're working with so many small businesses at so many different stages and different sectors, that we had to expand the team to understand its direction. And she's kind of broken up the team so we can work with you at every different stage, right? Like Frank, we can't promise you contracts, but in reality, we can get you better so that you're ready and that you're poised, right? You can bring your best game. I'm part of this group. It's a government's full of acronyms, so the PTAC stands for Procurement Technical Assistance Center. I'm a part of a sub-team that's statewide, and I'm just focused on government contracts. So I want you to bring your City of West Palm Beach contract, bring it to me, let's review it, let's set up your plan, let me review your response, and together we can try to figure out how to send the best solicitation package to them, okay? So that's what, and then our impact is, again, you probably have never heard of us, but in reality, our regional impact is $6.3 million in government contracts, and we want to do much better than that, but around the state, we're more than a $250 million, okay? So that's the reason why we're here, because we know that you haven't heard of us and you need to hear about us because we want to work with you, okay? All right, so I'm going to move through this pretty quickly here because I'm gonna run out of time and I'm going to talk too much. So my point to you is been evolution and growth. So if you've got your company ready, you've got services that are ready, you've got products that are ready, okay? There, you can go to each municipality and check out their city and see whether they are putting their solicitations on their city website, okay? The City of West Palm Beach does that. So you don't have to go anywhere. You go directly to the City of West Palm Beach and their solicitations are on their website, okay? And they keep that updated. So I've seen it several times. I've been even part of a team that solicited at one point, years ago. And so in terms of like finding the information, City of West Palm Beach makes it perfectly clear. You just go to the City of West Palm Beach website and you see any of those projects, whether they're something you can pursue, okay? That's the easy part. It's actually the City of West Palm Beach finding out who you are, okay? So the fact that you stepped you took a shower this morning and you put this event on your schedule was a wise move, right? Because now you get to meet Sandy Hammerstein, you get to at least interact with Frank Hayden if you aren't intimidated. If you look at him, he looks like a nice guy, but he looks like he's got a little bite to him, but I'm still going to say hi, right? Yeah. So just say hi, let him see you. And if you got out of bed and you parked and you paid a parking ticket, you might as well say hi to him, right? Because you did something that your competition didn't do. And so don't walk out the door and, I'm sorry, you're going to shake a lot of hands now, but let them meet you, okay? Introduce yourself, all right? Because this is your marketing effort. You got out of bed this morning, you came to this event, you've got to have them see you, see your face. So then when they see your name, when they see you somewhere at another event, they see you at a social event, right? And then they're like, hey, I came to that event. I remember you. I know you don't remember me, but I'm still out here. You follow? That's what I mean about marketing aggressively, okay? Because you have to be a known quantity. Because when they start looking at your solicitation response, the first thing the evaluators do is, in their heads, do I know this person? Do I know this company? What do I know about them? Have they delivered? Has any other agency had trouble with them? Are they a problem? Or are they a startup business that's actually certified in our directory? Did the certification specialists have a hard time with that? Right? You're marketing all the time, okay? Am I landing? You guys getting it? Okay. I want to talk to you about something technical. Is that okay? Can I get in the weeds a little bit? All right. So this is a big budget here. Pointing at Frank is it's his wallet, but it's not his wallet exactly. But he's responsible for the wallet here. Okay. It's a big budget. So when you're interacting with an agency, it's full of people, right? But some agencies, the power is centralized, decision making is centralized, so it's all consolidated. Some agencies, it's very dispersed, okay? And so, like, this decision maker impacts this decision maker, and you might have to get to know more than Frank and Sandy. You got to get to know some people in the engineering department. For those of you who are an engineer, like a consultant in the back. And some of you need to find out different departments within the city of West Palm Beach, because it's a bigger budget. It's got more people who's got their hands in the jar. So that means that there's just the decision making is spread out. So we call that internally, us little nerds like me, we call that centralization versus decentralization. Okay, and that's just the decision power. And why is this important? Because have you ever called government and you like can't get a hold of anybody and you're like, okay, who am I supposed to talk to? And then I go to this department, they send me over there, and then I go over here and they send me over here, right? And it's the nature of government to sometimes be non-responsive. That never happens here though. Never. Never. So everybody takes the calls. But in reality, you as the business owner, and this is you as the entrepreneur, as you're evolving, you have to really think, like figure out how the game is set, how the board is set. So you got to figure out as you're talking to people, is this person the decision maker? Are they connected to the decision maker? Who's making this buying decision? And that's on you. That's on you to figure that out. So real quick, I'm just putting that out here so that you can kind of see it visually. And then sometimes it's both, right? So sometimes where it's not so much as decentralized or centralized, it's a mix, right? So in some senses, I've actually been in the engineering department here because one of my clients had to come to engineering. So I walked in there, we met with the director. But at that time, my client, she knew that she had to know the engineering department director, but then she needed to know the inside into the administration, right? And so your competition is going to get in there and figure out where the plays are made, okay? You have to do the same. So you coming to an event like this is just the beginning of networking. And networking is not handing business cards and saying hi and bye, it's making a connection. That's networking. So if you're an introvert and you struggle with networking, don't worry, it doesn't matter. As long as you have that one solid conversation, you're good. Every networking event, you should be making a connection as opposed to just having conversations. And when you're dealing with government, you have to talk to people who don't want to talk to you. And you got to do it with a happy face and a smile and be polite. Because, and especially with government officials, just because they're not smiling at you and not making you feel welcome, does not mean that they're not evaluating you at that moment. Okay? I've actually had to tell someone several times, several clients, with this person, they don't smile, but they're super nice. Just come up solid, and the way you treat her, you're going to be good, because she is a serious professional. She's not playing around. She's got to move, and her life is. So if you're part of the good part of the cycle of her work, you're coming in. If you're a pain to work with, you're cycle out. You follow? So that's why regular people get bounced around a lot in here. You as an entrepreneur, you're a game player. You don't fall for the bounce around. You figure out what's being said and not being said. And you make your moves. You're a shark. Right? If you're not a shark, you're dying. Some of you are looking at me like, what is this crazy man telling us? This is called business development strategy. You have to interact with each agency. If you're going to tackle a couple of them at the same time, you're crazy. But you got to target each agency and figure them out. You got to know, who do I know that knows the mayor? Who do I know that knows the county commissioner? Who do I know that knows sales and engineering? Who do I know? Or do I need to reach out to the buyer? The buyer never returns my calls. Well, let me try an email. Did they get my capability statement? Like, it's all of these plays, and it's painful. But you got to do it. You got to do it because why? Because your competition is going to do it. Somebody in this room is going to outmove you. Am I landing? All right. I'm going to move through this stuff because I want to land here. Certification, okay? So Frank's team, what's cool about them is that they are procurement and they have supplier diversity inside. A lot of agencies will have the procurement department and supplier diversity, or the DEI team will be in another department, and it's adversarial, okay? Here, it's not adversarial. It is one vision. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Yes, it's one vision. Now, not all the agencies are like that, I promise you. But here it's one vision, right? So that means that Sandy is under Frank. Frank's over the whole budget, but Sandy's, and her diversity team is making sure they're certifying small businesses, women-owned businesses, and minority-owned businesses, and local-owned businesses, okay? So from the outside, it's hard to understand what this is about, and so you have to look at it this way. There's a bunch of people, a bunch of firms that are registered as vendors. They're part of a big pool that could do business with the agency. And then if you are certified, that means you're local to that agency in their territory, which puts you in a smaller pool. And then after people go through that tedious process of getting certified, you just end up in that database, but you still have to compete against the other people in the pool. And this is where people get through the certification process and then they get lost and then miss out because they don't realize, I gotta go market myself. Just because the diversity team now knows me doesn't mean the rest of the agency knows me. And that's the key point. Does that make sense to everyone? Because that's the key point, because you could be certified as a local-owned firm, but nobody knows who you are. You got to market yourself. All right. I try to move through that fast. So let me tie things together. So here's a funny thing. Okay. Anybody know what a balance sheet is? Okay. So you've heard, someone said you heard it a lot? I love that. I love that. See, that's someone who's evolving. So income statement, that means income, expenses, right? It's really nice. In and out, right? But your balance sheet is the true score sheet. Okay? So this is me tying it together with the on the credit and financing side. In business, what you're trying to grow is your balance sheet. So my daughter was writing on the walls in her bedroom, and she's a budding artist, I believe. So I have to think about how to encourage her and explain that the walls are an asset too. But I realized, you know what? She's my asset, so I think I'll just let it go. So I got to be the good cop on that situation. But you get what I'm saying, right? Which asset? I decided my daughter was the asset. We'll just paint it over. Okay. Now I'm not a fuddy-duddy dad. I'm a disciplinarian in the house. So there are other times I do draw boundaries. On that one, because of the artistic side, I thought I do need to just move her. We need to buy her more binders and more canvases so she could, get that out, right? I discovered that she's got an artistic talent, I believe, at 8 years old, so that's the asset that I am trying to develop over the long haul, because that asset will be productive, potentially monetary, but also for her happiness, right? The balance sheet is your happiness sheet. It's where it tells you how much of the assets of your business are powerful, okay? So your bankers like Marlon and Tony, they want to see the assets in your balance sheet and see how powerful you are, whether you are worth the risk. Say it? to lend. So I'm wrapping here, but I want you to understand that when you hear balance sheet, I don't want it to be one of these like financial like butterflies. I want you to look at it as the most important part that I want you to evolve on. Because if you develop your balance sheet, Marlon and Tony, like they'll just like run to your door and say, hey, what you got in that balance sheet? Oh, that's a nice balance sheet. You want $20,000? Oh, okay. Bankers like to give money to people who don't need it. Did everyone hear that? Bankers like, why? Because it's risk for them. If you didn't walk away with anything, your contract with government, you tell them, hey, I got a contract with the city of West Palm Beach, it's $65,000. Oh, yeah, well, that's interesting. We could factor that sucker. Did I tie it together? Okay. I can't go further because I went over. So I want to just bring back Frank. I have been very complimentary of him, but I think he deserves it. And,
Thank you, sir. Well, I hope you feel as I do that this has been very, very productive for this evening. I want to touch on just a couple of things that Jay talked about. I tell people when Sandy and I are out doing these outreach events and motivating you to come do business with the city of West Palm Beach, when I leave here, I'm not going to remember a single person in this room. That is not because I think I'm all that. It is that I could not remember all of you in this room. It is impossible. And at my age, I'm doing good to remember my children. So, but what Jay said is important. What I tell people is this: you have to be a pest. You have to hound, and my good friend here, Ms. Robinson, she does that.
there you go. That's Urban.
She hounds me constantly. Whenever I see it, it's constantly the same thing. When are you gonna give me some work? When can I? So I know her, and I tell people, I want you to bug me to the point that I'm gonna give you some work so you'll leave me alone. And that's the way you ought to go. And that's the point that Jay was making. It tells us that you are serious, that you are committed, and that you will do the work. Now, I'll tell you this on the other hand. If I give you some work and you mess it up, not only will you not get any work with me anymore, everybody I know will know you can't do the work. So you got to be, and if you need help, that's what we're here for. Talk to us. Let us know about it. So, this is the time when you can get to meet, talk with people, talk about what you do, how you might be able to partner with one another. And if any of you have any questions for anyone who has spoken, this is a good time. You can raise it now, and we can all hear it. Or you can take them in the back by the corner and talk to them and let nobody else know what it is you're talking about. I don't care. So any questions? You know, I love it that I tell Sandy this all the time. I'm so good at what I do, nobody has to ask questions. You know, it answers everything. So, network people, get to know individuals, and I'm going to close with this. I need to hear from somebody in this room tomorrow. And I'll tell you this, you call every day, but I'll tell you this, when you call, you got to remind me of where I met you. Because I was in an event last night where I met Saturday, where I met about 50 people. And so here we are again today with this number of people, so you got to remind me. So I was at the library. And you were corny with your jokes. And I said, okay, all right. So folks, mingle next. We've still got about a half hour or better. So get to know some folks. And the biggest thing is let's work on making some money. As I tell people, those of you who are church-going folks, you know, the old thing is the minister, when it's around time to collect, he says, the doors of the church are open, come on down. And my job is the doors of the city of West Palm Beach are open. We have opportunities for you. We even have the ability to help you financially. So I'm telling you, come on down, take advantage of this so we can get some things done. All right, thank you all very much.